feel like this is a few years now I've been having this conversation with people about the eye camera, right? And I think computational photography is so dope. Like what these smartphone manufacturers have done with sensor sizes about that of your fingernail, right? It's phenomenal the way they use the compute on the smartphone to take 15, 20, 30, 40 images at once. And each image has its own purpose. And they're using depth mapping and they use a subset of that data to get rid of noise and then sharpen this and sharpen that and identify the subject and sharpen that and here's where the bulk of fall off should be and make that happen. Like, it's phenomenal. And for years, I've wanted to see what Apple would do. And I'm no Apple fan, but here I am in the ecosystem. And the thing about wanting to see a camera from Apple, I'd fantasize that they would be using at least a 1-inch sensor, but maybe a micro four thirds sensor. That would be nice, right? But then they'd give that camera the compute power of like an M4 chip, just raw power. And they'd be able to do all of that computational stuff with the raw data from a nice size sensor. That would be phenomenal. I would gladly pay $4,000 or $5,000 for something like that. And then, Apple does things a very particular way. So all the complaints I've had and as of recent with these camera companies and them not putting proper or decent security features on the camera, Apple would have that on lock. It would be tied to your iCloud account. So if you lose the camera, you'd lock it down. You can find my camera. You can track it, all these nice things. The camera would probably have cellular connectivity. So you could post straight from the camera to Instagram, like all these nice things. And Samsung has done some of that in the past. And the NX series I quite like. I've been looking on eBay at those NX cameras with running Android for the last year or so. Maybe I'll pull that trigger. But nonetheless, and then Apple, the camera community will probably complain, but Apple's like, secure digital card? For what? For what? It's a SoC and we got a terabyte of storage in there and it's super fast, which means that the pipeline for that data, that raw data is screaming fast. So now you can do your 6K raw, ProRes, whatever. Like, you could see Apple doing this, right? So at this point, they come with the design, one block aluminum, right? Beautifully designed machine. It'll be nice and white, nice and shiny. I don't know what they would do with the lenses, but Apple would probably make it nice. And then Sigma announced the BF. Whoa. I quite like everything about the Sigma BF, even the name. From what I'm reading, it stands for beautifully foolish. I like it's an approach to insecurities, right? Like you tell your kids, you prepare your kids for being bullied at school. You teach them how to remove the power in the first place. Well, and this is a real thing for me, right? It hurt when kids would call me fat at school. But maybe if I had the bars that, I mean, you are fat and you could do something about it, or you can just be happy with who you are. They have no power. They can't make me feel a certain way, right? So when you look at someone like Sigma, Sigma's heavy in the photography world, and they have released a camera that looks so strange to the rest of us. And the first thing they said was, it's beautifully foolish. Now you got nothing to say. It shut a lot of people up. Yeah, but there's no grip. They said up front, This ain't supposed to make sense. Yeah, but it's got no secure. I can't put a card in there. They said up front, this is a design first approach. I don't want to hear about your complaints about functionality. This is all about design. And I think Apple is the most famous example of this we have, because for so long, coming from the Windows Mobile days, coming from the Android days, all along those ways, Apple have been doing things, even going back to the iPod. You got the Zune, you have things like the Dell jukeboxes with MP3 players back in the day. Apple's always just looked beautiful, but it missed so much of the functionality of everything else on the market. And us, the nerds, would always say, yeah, but it don't do this, and it never mattered. It never mattered. People voted first, and the people who bought these products from Apple, they always voted with their wallets. We like beautifully designed things. And that is the lens of which I see Sigma approaching this camera, and why I think this camera is the beginning of something so beautiful that I would love to see from more manufacturers. You can have your whatever Sigma, because I think they had 2 cameras before this that were they video focused? And they were cool looking cameras, by the way. But then, like, if I look at Sony, yeah, Sony's got your A7 this, your A7 that, the A7C. You've got the A67, that line. I would love for them to do something like this that was just beautiful to look at, less about functionality. I think us as photographers would eat it up. Because one of the things I really love about my Fuji, and I know a lot of people love about their Leicas, they're beautiful. And you can argue that there are missing some functionalities, maybe not so Fuji, because Fuji's very functional, very tactile. But you can argue that when you lean so heavy in the design language and the looks and the beauty of it, you leave a lot of functionality on the table. But you know what? I want to put something on a shelf that it's just so jaw-droppingly beautiful that it inspires me. I gotta go touch it. I gotta go pick it up. I gotta go take a photo with this thing. It's too beautiful not to. I really like what I'm seeing. And then Sigma's done, I mean, from what I can tell, given the design of this thing, they've done a lot of thought into how you control aspects of the ISO triangle without having a million dials all over the place, right? They've rounded off the edge of the camera that will sit in the palm of your hand. Is it the most comfortable thing? Probably not, but you can hold it, right? And you probably need a hand strap, but like, don't all of our cameras have a hand strap on it already? You should probably, right? Like, there are terms of engagement that any camera has. We can say that about the most functional camera in the world. Yeah, but you gotta make sure you do this as a compensating control, right? Like, so why is this any different? And I feel like a lot of the feedback I've been seeing for Sigma on this BF kind of isn't warranted. And it always comes from, and you got to take the internet with a grain of salt, right? It's always the small few with the craziest opinion with the loudest mouth. And that kind of makes it seem like the entire world doesn't care. So I want to preface that, but I feel like we need to do a better job at listening to the manufacturers on what their purpose for this was, what their approach to this was, and who it's for. Ain't nobody telling you to go buy this Sigma BF and go run your photography business. That just doesn't make sense. Having said all of that, I think there's a lot about this camera that I like. Not having a secure digital card, having an internal memory, having this beautiful way of maneuvering the UI, having this beautifully machined thing, and even the lenses look great, right? Like, I really want this camera. I really want this camera. And I feel like part of the lineage of loving this craft is, if I could show you guys my photography shelf over here, I've got so many cameras that, like, they're old, they're analogs, and they're beautiful. And I feel like we got away from that because largely in the last 30 to 40 years, it's been about functionality. And that's fine. But I like how Sigma sort of emerged and was like, well, let's get back to the beauty. Because to be honest, the only people that was really doing it in any meaningful way is Leica. And that'll cost you at least $6,000. You ain't get to the lenses yet. So I'm happy to see what Sigma's doing here. And I hope somewhere along the line, Apple shows up. I hope somewhere along the line, Fuji takes notice. I hope Sony hops on the bandwagon, right? Nikon, Canon, like, this is such a great idea. Give us something. You see this in the record world, right? Records, vinyl went goodbye and now it's back. And there's these subset of companies that are making record or turntables and they cost $600-700, but they're so beautiful. It's so hard to say no to them because, my God, look at the engineering. Look at the design. Yes, we as a community deserve this. Good on Sigma. Thank you so much for spending your time here with me today. It is the most valuable resource that we have. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. My name is Ramon. I'm out of here. Peace.